Okay. Thunder. 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 Thundercats. Ho! Okay. So, now we got that out of my system. I want to talk to you guys about some of the shows Cartoon Network rebooted and pretty much said fuck you to the fans. Not like literally, but more or less. Um, with the exception of the new Samurai Jack that they did, because that was awesome. I hated the fucking ending, but that being said, it was fucking awesome. Thank you, Cartoon Network, for re-airing Samurai Jack, leading us up to the final few episodes, even though it took forever for us to get them. Thank you, Phil Lamar, and thank you to the creator of Samurai Jack. Now, moving off of that, because that's like the only one I can say that was not a fucking cop-out. So, since they have rebooted at least two shows that was in my youth, I want to focus on them. I want to focus on He-Man and Thundercats. Since the video I did before this talks about He-Man, the new Adventures of He-Man, and the other two He-Man, and bring up She-Ra, I figured I'd go there first. Alright? Because when they did the new He-Man, not the one with Adam and the two plats, the one with J.D. Roth talking as Adam, and probably as He-Man. I didn't really read the credits because J.D. Roth also did Johnny Quest, which I'm also going to be adding to this list of 3 cartoons that the Cartoon Network probably could have extended on. I mean, they were good cartoons. I don't know if it was a ratings thing, if the actors all just said fuck it and walked, or the writers just said fuck it and walked. Something went wrong somewhere in the production or the post production or contracts negotiating. Something clearly went wrong. So we're going to start with He Man. I'm going to end with either the Thundercats or Johnny Quest. I'm just going to go one behind the other, and it's going to probably be a long video. In the event that I swear, like I already done, I apologize. I have no personal grief with Cartoon Network. I have agreed with the fact that you guys can do a little better with giving us proper endings to shows instead of just letting us fucking hang there by our testicles wondering what the fuck happened. Alright, so with He-Man, I didn't get to see the last episode. I've been looking for the last episode of the J.D. Roth version, not just the new thing that I just talked about in the last video, but of the J.D. Roth version, because I don't know what happened. There was one episode specifically where He-Man uh, fought and died, and I guess the powers went to his reincarnated soul of Prince Adam, and apparently He-Man was the king of Eternia or whatever in the new version, and He-Man's father is the son of He-Man who reproduced He-Man, or he's the great grandson of He-Man. You'll have to watch the episode because I'm fucking confusing myself, so I'm gonna change that right there. So in that show, He-Man again 15, Teela somewhere between 18 and 20. So there wasn't a whole lot of hanky panky going on with them. But it was a good show. It was a great fucking phenomenon of a show. They rehashed it, they rebooted it. They kind of don't let you lead into Teela being the daughter of the sorceress, but you know they do touch on characters. They rebooted every character. They gave them new backstories and whatever, and all kinds of other stuff because it doesn't let you know that Teela is actually not the biological daughter of Man at Arms, like in the original cartoon, where she's actually the daughter of the sorceress and Man at Arms raised her. But we don't know who the hell Teela's father actually is. However, Teela doesn't know who the hell her mother actually is, or that she's fucking adopted. So I guess whoever created the show just wanted to create one hellacious fucking soap opera, and it worked because everybody I knew in my generation was buying He-Man stuff. Battlefront He-Man with a chest pops up and all that stuff, which they pretty much got from whatever other cartoon was doing it first, and then He-Man like jumped on the bandwagon. And He-Man toys probably sold better also. But the whole thing was that they did do a pretty decent job in the reboot of He-Man. The problem is that you're not sure what the heck's going on by the time the show ends. Like by the time the entire season ends, not just one episode, but the entire season. By the time it ends, you're you're left wondering how the hell did you get this far, and it kind of ended on a cliffhanger. At least the episode I saw, I didn't get to see the very last episode, and if that was the very last episode, then I am correct. But I'm pretty sure that's not, and I have to go find it. I have to find out how many episodes there were, so I can go find it, and then that will hopefully lead me to making another video to correct myself. But that being said, it left you with so many things that you couldn't really unravel. But the thing was, it was a good cartoon. J.D. Roth held it down as He-Man, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really didn't understand what the hell was going on with the concept of him being 15 instead of being at whatever age he is in the original cartoon. Sorry, I'm actually looking for something here on the TV. When I find it, I'll know. But, I'm sitting here and I was watching that brand new He-Man and I just couldn't wrap my hands around whatever the hell was going on. But with this, with the J.D. Roth version, it was pretty damn close to the original concept, you know, and that just all out amazed me. Because I was thinking to myself, well, how is this going to be? You know, and it turned out pretty good for me. But, I mean, at the same time, I'm a He-Man fan, so of course it was going to be alright for me. If you're a He-Man fan, things tend to work out a little bit better for you when you watch the reboots. Now, I will say this though, because of like my total confusion of the whole thing, is that what in the hell was the reason for making He-Man so young and Teela old enough to kiss but nothing else? And she rarely seen Adam as anything outside of a brat and a slouch, a guy who lacked at his responsibilities and wouldn't do what he needed to do. Okay? That's pretty much how she viewed He-Man. And I'm like, well, damn, I really couldn't understand why she didn't really like him as Adam, like talking about it, like love interest for reasons. I could never understand why she didn't really like him. But I come to find myself not liking his ass either. You know, and you'd have to be the judge of it on your own opinion. You know, I liked it, but at the same time, totally confused on the rehashing. But it was a good cartoon. Now we're gonna move on to not that. We're gonna move on to Johnny Quest. Now that I'm not sure if I saw the last episode. I will tell you the last episode I saw, it left me in limbo because I couldn't tell what in the blue hell was going on with this damn entire new rehashing concept of Johnny Quest. That does not change the fact that I totally enjoyed and loved the show. It just changes the fact that I didn't know what the hell was going on. Alright? So when I say that, I literally mean that I didn't know what the hell was going on. Because one, you have to understand, if you're not old enough to know what the fuck Johnny Quest is, then the reboot is probably where you should start. Because the reboot was pretty fucking good. Now, I will say this as a fan, you know, Johnny Quest, the reboot was pretty damn good. To the fact that they gave you more about Haji, they gave you more about race, and they gave you more about Benton. And they got rid of the stereotype of everybody believing that Benton and race were gay. Not that there's anything wrong with Benton and race being gay. But I don't really know if gay men go out and have children with straight women and then go gay. I don't know how that works. I'm not gay, so scratch that remark. But the whole principle of the thing is that the reboot, it touched on all kinds of things. It introduced you to Sasquatch. It introduced you, well, it was a Yeti. They went to a temple. And They also played a lot of video games or virtual reality games in the TV show, which they didn't do in the original. That stuff wasn't in existence when Hanna-Barbera ran it the first few years because honestly, the Johnny Quest that I'm currently talking about is actually the third installment. So let me give you a little bit of history. In the it's either the 60s or the 50s, when Hanna-Barbera was like just popping out cartoons everywhere. Johnny Quest was amongst them. And it had to be in the 50s or the 60s because my mom and dad watched Johnny Quest, the original. So initially, I started watching Johnny Quest in the 80s, which was technically the second reboot. And then eventually in that, which would stop the rumors from being, with Benton and them being gay, Ray Spannon and Benton Quest being gay, was they introduced Jesse, but they also introduced a man made of stone known as Hard Rock. However, in the third reboot, they left him off, which was highly disappointing to me as a fan of the second reboot because I never really knew the old Johnny Quest. I watched it recently, and the old one and the second one with Hanna-Barbera, where the colors are a lot brighter and everything, they were all good cartoons, except for in the original, Ray Spannon didn't have any kids outside of Johnny and Haji, and they weren't even his kids. They were Dr. Benton's kids. Haji apparently is adopted, and I think he is the same age as Johnny in the original. In the second one, they're the same age, but in the reboot, Johnny's 15 and Haji's like 17. And he finally stops wearing that turban all the damn time. So, that being said, with the third reboot of Johnny Quest, you get modern cartoon with old story, and the stories are great, but the cartoon is even better until you get into where they go into the virtual reality stuff, and then it looks like reboot. But as for the cartoon, that's only like 3 or 4 episodes, and then when they're outside, it's just like a regular cartoon. But it was a great cartoon. Again, I hail thanks to J.D. Roth for voicing Johnny Quest, which was a really good show. But Cartoon Network did not renew it, and that pissed me off, just like with him and He-Man. That pissed me off because I'm like, you guys have good concepts and good thoughts, but you never carry the show to a second season. Now, if Johnny Quest, the reboot number 3, got a second season, I didn't see it. So, and I've seen all the first ones because not only did it come on Cartoon Network, but it also came on TBS. I do not know which one it aired on first, but I do know that it came on 3 channels for Charlottesville. It came on Cartoon Network, it came on TBS, and if you were blessed, sometimes it came on TNT. So I got to see it. If I missed it, I would catch it on another channel. So it did run on 3 channels here in Charlottesville. I can't speak for anyone else in the world, but in Charlottesville, it did come on TBS, TNT, and the Cartoon Network. I don't know which channel had it first, but I mostly saw it on the Cartoon Network, so I'm going to go with that. So, we're at 13 minutes, and I'm going to go to the final cartoon. The Cartoon Network did not pick up. It did not give it a season. And hurt my feelings because they rebooted everything, and like it was a total clusterfuck, but it was a great fucking show. The Thundercats. Now this part of the video is probably going to last the longest, which would probably shoot this thing over the 20-minute mark. So if you want to stop right here, right now, then you probably should do that. But if you don't want to stop and you want to hear my opinions, and I thank you if you do, here they come. Okay? So, first and foremost, Thundercats was completely rehashed. Like, completely. It doesn't have them crashing on Third Earth. It has them already being on Third Earth for some time to have established a pretty good foothold and a pretty good life. It introduces you to Lion-O's father and Tigra being adopted, and it goes into so many different mythos about the whole damn show. And how all the Thunderians, Thundera is gone, but Thundera is there also because Thundera is the name of the kingdom in which Lion-O, Tigra, and his dad and them live in, along with Jaga, who isn't dead for like a couple of episodes, and then I forgot how he dies, but Jaga raised Chitara. And I'm like, they have totally changed everything. I mean, they like completely clusterfucked it all up, and it was a good clusterfuck to a degree, but not good enough apparently to get a second season, which totally sucked. So they have Tigra and Lionel as cubs, as brothers, and apparently Tigra was the successor until Lionel's mom actually had Lionel. So Lionel's a couple of years younger than Tigra, and there's a lot of sibling rivalry and drama because, you know, just because your family doesn't mean you actually have to be blood related. That's been a concept that has been accepted by everyone who has been adopted, and some people who have not been adopted, and by people who are your friends who you would rather be biologically family members with than friends. But that doesn't change the fact that you are family. You're just not biologically connected. Enough said, good. Anyway, so apparently, somewhere down the series, Tigra, Lionel, and Chitara have a love triangle. Pumaira shows up, but there's no sign of Bengali. There's no sign of Linkso. So those two guys aren't in the show. If they are in the show, I clearly missed them. Now, at one point in time in the show, Lionel goes through time, like in the psychic realm, but not in the physical. I forgot how this happened because I clearly need to go back and watch all of the season. And he's playing his grandfather as Mumra has all of them enslaved, and he's taking them from one place to Third Earth. And in there's a cameo by the Tiger Sharks and the Silverhawks Monstar. Alright? And you have to be paying attention because the grandfather that Lionel is playing as and his grandmother, he pushes a button and all the screens of all the people that Mum-Ra has captured is on this slave ship. And so apparently there's a revolt on the ship which makes the ship crash on Third Earth. And those in the screen, you have Monstar. He transforms on there, and I don't remember if the octopus is there. And then you have the Tiger Sharks, and they're both in like two different screens. So you have Tiger Sharks up here and Monstar down there, or Tiger Sharks down here and Monstar up there. And then you have other people, like other species that somehow or another there are no humans on Earth because they don't go into like the old mythos of Third Earth being Earth's like third generation of rebirth or whatever the hell. Well, apparently the only women on Earth are the Amazon tribe, and then the time traveler Heihachi Man, who comes through time at least twice in the original stuff, because he destroys the Sword of Omens at least once with the Sword of Excalibur. Somehow or another they fight, and Heihachi Man wins against Lionel. But then he finds out that it wasn't an honorable fight, so then he fights with Lionel. You guys have to go way back to the 80s to watch that. But anyway, moving on. The story, the arcs of the stories, they keep like reinventing, rehashing, and changing stuff up. And I'm way confused on this shit because I'm like, okay, so where's the ballistic cannon? Where's the thunder tank? Eventually, they do make a thunder tank, and Groon the Destroyer is still alive. Jaga dies, but Groon is still alive. Where on the original, Groon and Jaga both are dead, and they fight each other in the Ghost Realm. And Lionel gives him his strength, and you have to go back really far to watch that. But the thing is, they give you more definition of all the backstories. They give Panther like the worst possible Japanese haircut ever, and eventually, at some point, spoiler alert, Panther loses his arms, getting rid of Groon the Destroyer. Where in the original, Panther never dealt with Groon the Destroyer. That was in Jaga's youth, and for some, they do flashback to how he died. But in this, Groon the Destroyer is like the number one Thundercat that everybody's afraid of, and him and Panther get to fighting, and then he pushes Groon into another dimension. He holds him there, and when the dimension closes, it cuts off Panther's arms. And this is getting close toward the end of the cartoon season, and the the damn Care Bears on crack and mechanical robot arms and stuff they build for Panther till he gets used to them and stuff like that. And the arms can stretch and do all kinds of shit that never happened in my Thundercats. Now, then they meet the little flower people and they're dying and they grow old and all this other stuff because they got lost in this forest or whatever. And then there is a battle with Mum-Ra and Lionel, but I don't really know how it ends because there's my cliffhanger. I missed the episode after that and I never could find it, so I'm still looking for that episode. And then you got other elements with the love triangle where Tiger and Chitara actually wind up together. But in the old cartoon, I'm pretty sure Lion-O and Chitara actually wound up together, and then Bengali and Pumaira wind up together. And I think Tiger had an interest with the Amazon woman, but I'm not going to swear to that because I have to go back and watch all those things or find a DVD, which I do not have. But the concept is really quite the same. Everybody gets somebody except for Panthro. Yeah, he doesn't have a girlfriend in the show at all. And Wily Kid and Wily Cat, they don't get people because they're actually twin brother and sister. So we don't really know how that works. But in the new concept, I guess they're still twins, but in the cartoon, they're the only ones who have their tails. And I couldn't figure out why in the hell did no other Thundercat have tails, but Wily Kid and Wily Cat have their tails. Like I said, it's a whole rewrite. And though I enjoyed it, I kind of didn't enjoy it at the same time because they had a lot of episodes that open your eyes and your mind, or your third eye, the sight beyond sight thing. They gave you new concepts. So basically, it wasn't a reboot; it was a complete rehashing. Because there's so much that they left off, and so much that they changed, and so much they added on, and it probably could have carried a second season, but Cartoon Network wouldn't give it a second season, or the producers and the writers pretty much gave all of us fans the finger. Now the thing about that is that if you go back far enough to watch all the old Thundercats, eventually the Sword of Omens and some capsule that Lion-O finds rebuilds Thundera. And everybody, all the Thundercats at least, leave Third Earth. But not before they wipe out Mum-Ra and the mutants. And they leave Third Earth basically in peace. Now, the last episode of that Thundercats, I can't remember, but I know I saw it because I know that they left Third Earth because Melodia, no, not Melodia because that's Silverhawks, the Madonna-looking police officer, she rode with them in space. So apparently, Thundercats must clearly, if they're in the same existence as Silverhawks, they must take place like millions of years after that, where humans can actually live in space without being partly metal, partly real, which is kind of not right because Melodia on Silverhawks doesn't have any metal on her when she's playing the guitar. Sorry, I just threw that in. It has nothing to do with what I was talking about. So moving back to Thundercats. In the original Thundercats, eventually, by the time you get to the last episode of either the second or the third season, I can't really remember, they do rebuild Thundera. Because Lion-O found some way, I don't know how, I don't remember, my mind shot the shit. But Lion-O, the Sword of Omens, they rebuild Thundera, they leave the Thundercat castle there. And they all go back to Thundera, and I'm like, what the fuck? So they do go full circle. Now, I don't know how this affects their time, because you don't know how long they're actually on Earth, but you know they're on Earth long enough to encounter Mum-Ra and the mutants quite a few times and get to know other people from different timelines and women that are on Earth and other stuff, you know. Which, by the way, it kind of threw me because back on the old Thundercats, there were no men, but there were Amazon women and bears. I don't know where the bears came from, but the women clearly said they were from the Amazon. So I'm like, okay, well, what part on Earth did they land on? You know, because the Amazon's in South America. And these women were not Asian. In the Amazon tribe, those women are actually Asian because they're Native Americans. Okay? So let's not go into, like, mythology of Amazons and stuff like that. Because the Amazon is not in Africa. It is in South America. Alright, so now that we got that established, the Thundercats had met these women. I think Lion-O met them by accident. Now, in the new cartoon, on that same tree across the bridge where Thundercats had met the Amazon women, Lion-O and Tigra got to fighting over that, and Tigra shook the tree, and Cub Lion-O fell in. So he ran back to the castle and told them that Lion-O had died. And then they went to go find him. I can't remember how they found them. I'm pretty sure they found them because Lion-O was still old enough to be back in the show. So he lived to a ripe old age of whatever the show ended with. And that being said, it probably could have been more into it. But like I said, they left off Bengali. They left off Linkso. They did have Pumaira. She wound up betraying the Thundercats. So like, the Pumaira from my cartoon never would have done that. Where was Bengali? Where was Linkso? They left off a lot of characters that I liked. They added new characters and new backgrounds and new stories, but it just wouldn't carry over to a second season. So you don't really know, or let me rephrase that. I don't really know how it ends because the last one I saw, Lionel was on his way to go confront Mumra, and the Thundercats he had left behind, and they were quickly in tow. But I don't remember what happened. So I have to find that episode. So I'm gonna end this. This will be my last video for the night. But if you guys agree with this thing, drop me some comments. Hit me up on my Facebook channel. Let me know what the hell you think because cop outs, man. I'm sick and tired of cop outs. You know what? Matter of fact, I'm gonna make one more video about shows that should be rebooted without cop outs and great endings. And you know, Sliders is on that list. I'm James Williams Jr. This is Kung Fu Havoc number 2. Be seeing